Hey, good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
Yes.
Good evening.
Thank you so much for joining today's session. The plan is actually to wait maybe till 8:10, so we could know if other people would join. But while we're doing so, I think it's necessary we introduce the game master. That will be taking us through this very important and critical and personal topic of lending and borrowing. But this is actually the S&P Finance Club, and for some of us that may be joining for the first time, what we do here is just to help one another to learn all we can learn, share experience, share knowledge in terms of business, finance, economics, and everything that has to do with money, career development, networking. And luckily for us, today we'll be having this topic, which I think it's something profound. So please allow me to introduce Cornell Ndubisi, a seasoned businessman. He's also a lender of last resort, the way we have banks. So in case after this class you want to borrow money, please, I think he's the right person to meet. So, but unfortunately for you, if you're not, if your credit score is not high, I don't think Cornell would help you. So, Connor is a seasoned businessman and an author, and he's had series of experiences in this space of lending and borrowing. And if we recall some of the top companies in the world that actually went ahead to do great things, almost all of them, borrowed at some point. You talk about Mark Zuckerberg of Facebook. It was actually a couple of his friends that helped him with some money. Of course, he wasn't from a very poor background anyway. You also think about the Starbucks. It was just $8,000 that they were able to get from some friends and family. So it's very important to borrow, also important to lend. But between that, we have the bad and the good and everything in between. And we will be privileged to be hearing everything, all the tactics in that space and in that kind of game from Cornell. So thank you so much, Cornell, for accepting to do this for us. We really appreciate you. You can have the floor now.
Okay, great. Yeah, like I tried mentioning earlier, a conversation like this, it's not a mass thing. So when I say not a mass thing, you can trust that this is one problem that almost everybody has got. People are complaining, I will never lend people money anymore, this, that. And then they've come across, say, a gathering or a presentation where that subject will be discussed, and yet they are not here, right? So that tells you that at the end of the day, the same thing will keep happening to many people and they will not get out of it. And if I were the one, I would have even started with the very first person, because a way to respect people who showed up early would be to get straight to the meat of the day, and while others come, to declare to them that they came late. Now, where to start from? By the way, I like to do the old school way, which is, I have my notes here. I have stuff, even up till a minute to the time, I was still writing stuff, so I wouldn't have been able to make the whole slide thing. But I can assure you that at the end of our encounter this evening, you would have gained some more regarding the topic of our discussion. Now, where to start from? I like to start from the topic itself. I titled it, The Game of Lending and Borrowing. The game of lending and borrowing. Now, in this part of the world, when you talk about or when you describe something as a game, there's a sense of negativity that it connotes, right? There's a sense of negativity. I mean, you are gaming me, you are this. I mean, when you say something is a game, it just connotes negativity. But I like to start by clearing that up to tell you where I got that from in the first place. And I'll be pointing us in a very serious way to the banks, right? To the banks. Now, if someone should ask you, what's the business model of the bank? What's the business model of the bank? And by business model, we mean, if somebody should ask you what's the business model of a business, it simply means how do they make money. So in the same vein, when somebody should ask you what's the business model of the bank, it is simply lending and borrowing. And let me explain to you how that works. And that's why one of the easiest way to become a crazily and stupendously wealthy person is to own a bank, right? Because it doesn't get better than owning a bank in terms of making money, right? So with the banks, for every #1 or $1 deposit a bank gets, the bank is permitted to lend 10 naira or $10. It's a crazy ratio, like 1:10. You go to the bank and deposit 1 naira, right? The bank is permitted to lend 10 naira. Now you're asking yourself, where did they get the 9 naira from? So much of the money you think the bank has, it's like thin air, does not exist. And it's just that loophole that makes the banking industry like an ATM machine. It just spins cash. For every 1 naira or $1 that is deposited in the bank is permitted to lend 10 naira or $10. So that means they just created 9 naira or $9 out of thin air, and they lend the money. And here's the irony, and a very funny one at that. The savings account interest rates, and let me use the real figures in Nigeria. The savings account interest rates in Nigeria is, of course, it's from 1 naira to, I know, from 100,000 to 4,999,999 naira, right? Is 1.5%, right? And then from 5 million to 100 million is 2%. From 100 million and above is 2.5%. Get those numbers. So I think less than 100,000 will be 1.25%. The next one, 1.5%. The next one, 2%, and then the next one, 2.5%. Now, the interest rates, like when the bank lends you money, the interest rates on the loan, now in Nigeria, in May, the CBN increased it from 11.5% to 13%. So as it stands now, the interest rate, the minimal interest rate on a loan from Nigerian banks is 13%. And then the maximum, there's a max, because it's also a question of negotiation, if you can negotiate with them. But the max is 30%, right? Remember what I said earlier. For every 1 naira the bank gets, the bank is allowed to lend 10 naira, right? And then the real deposits, the interest rate is 1.25, 1.5, 2%, and 2.5%, depending on the amount of money, right? Look at two sides of the equation. For free money, they are getting 13% and stuff. And I told you that the business model of the bank is lending, right? Now, for the bank to be successful, for the bank not to be losing money, they just have a very interesting way of dealing with the lending thing. So I'm trying to introduce you, from this conversation, I'm trying to introduce you to the whole business model of the bank and how you can bring the whole idea of how the bank lends money into your own personal lending and borrowing business. And I mean, if I ask us now to start telling our stories, you will hear really gory stories, right? Of how family, of how friends, of how whomever we call them, told us all the very interesting story, my school fees this, my family this, my daughter this, my house this, and those kind of stories we hear. And then we'll go get our hard-earned money in the hope that we are helping someone we really care about, and then the money disappears. And like I said, I'm sure if we open the floor now for us to start sharing our lending and borrowing experience, it will be very, very fun. But we'll get to that. We'll get to that sometime. And then before we go into the meat of today, I want to address two conclusions most people have already reached in regard this lending and borrowing thing. And I'm sure some of my friends here that have reached that conclusion. Number one, some people have sworn that nothing will make them lend money anymore. Nothing will make them lend anybody money anymore, right? They're living to it, seriously. And if you ask them why, they will tell you the stories. And many of the stories, they'll tell you about their parents. They can tell you about their siblings. They can tell you about their best friends. They can tell you about their girlfriends. They can tell you about their wives. They can tell you about their in-laws. They can tell you about the different, very close people in their lives that got money from them with very touching stories, but after that just disappeared or stopped talking about it and all that. So those set of people have simply reached that conclusion that there's nothing. Some have sworn that there's nothing that will make them lend money anymore. So what they've resorted to doing is, if you come to them asking that they lend you money, say maybe lend me 20K, and you are a friend or you are family, what they might decide to do is tell you that they don't have. I mean, we can't say they're lying or not lying, but the point is they decided they're not going to lend money anymore. So they tell you they don't have, and then tell you, yeah, but your story is very touching. But let me dash you 2,000 naira, or let me dash you 3,000 naira, or let me dash you 5,000 naira. They just want to support you and then cut you loose, because they know that some of them have concluded also that, you know, lending you money is like putting the friendship on trial, because it might give you the opportunity to break the friendship. So there's a group of people that have made that conclusion. And what I will tell them, I want to address the two categories of people, right, before we move into dealing with lending and borrowing, because we'll deal with them separately, right? So what I would tell those group of people is that growing up, there's a famous passage in the Bible, and I just keep remembering it. I don't know. Psalm 112, verse 5. Psalm 112, verse 5. The Message translation said, the good person is generous and lends lavishly. The good person is generous and lends lavishly, right? Now, seeing from this passage, and I'm a person of faith, really. So seeing from this passage, I want to bring to your attention, the fact that lending is something about being a good person. The fact that you can hear the story of a dying child, the fact that you can hear the story of a school fees not paid, the fact that you can hear the story of your friend being evicted from the house, and you want to do something about it. That is something about you that you should treasure and cherish. That is what it means to be a good person. Now, the fact that people have taken you for a ride, the fact that people have taken you for a fool and have dealt with you in whatever ways they have dealt with you, right, should not change that essential part of you, which is goodness. Now, instead, we should talk about how do I mitigate against those abuses, right? That is what we should be talking about, not swearing that I'm not going to do it anymore and stuff. And I will also be proving to you that even you may not be able to do without borrowing. So if you are swearing, given your past experiences, if you are swearing that you're not going to do it anymore, what now justifies the fact that sometime in your life, you may need somebody to lend you money? So I'm trying to say that deciding to never lend again is overreaction. Instead, it should be, what can I do to lend better? How can I lend from the banks? or how can I learn the principles that will make me reduce the incidences of bad loans in my personal finance? That is what it should be about. And by the end of this conversation, I'll be hoping that you will get an idea or two to help you take care of that. And in fact, I love the way the NIV will say, good will come to those who are generous and lend freely. There's just principles that run this world. There's still value to generosity. So don't regret your generosity, but instead find ways to guard yourself against the three categories of people I will be sharing with you later. That is one. Then two, there's the group of people who are saying that I cannot lend what I cannot afford to lose. I cannot lend what I cannot afford to lose. This is just to bring to your notice that that's a losing strategy, actually, because the first law of wealth building is not to lose money. So you can't see where you lose money and go and put money, right? So what I'm trying to say is you can do better than lending what you can afford to lose. You can do better than that, actually. And in the course of this conversation, I'll be able to call your attention to how you should do this. So two things I've said right now, the two categories of people or the two categories of reactions to bad borrowing, right? I don't think either of them is a good way to run your personal finance as it relates to interacting with other people in the lending, borrowing relationship. So number one, I have said, those who said they are not doing again, to use a Nigerian, they are not doing again. That's, I mean, for all the right reasons. They show you their list of bad debts and you are crying, it's running into millions. So they are saying they are not doing again. I'm trying to say that's overreaction. You can do better than that because you're a good man. And your experience with bad people or irresponsible people or scammers should not condition how you interact with people in your future. That's one. And then number two, those who are saying they can only lend what they can afford to lose. The golden rule is don't lose money. Don't lose money. It's either you lend or you don't lend at all, but don't lose money. So at the end of today, we'll be able to see how not to react this way and how to do it better. So that's the first thing. And then importantly, I would like to start with the borrowing end. I would like to start with the borrowing end. Because in one way or the other, all of us who are on this call, how many? About 11 of us on this call have had to borrow before. And it can interest you that those of us who've run to this conversation, I want to see how to learn better, how to just talking about the lending end of the conversation. And I've forgotten that we are also borrowers. And it can be funny that when we cast aspersions on those who don't pay their loans, some of us who are here may be owing, may have not paid some of the monies we are owing, and have, so it just ties back to that thing around remove the log from your own eyes so that you can see clearly to remove the speck in another person's eye. Now you might be angry that somebody is owing you 20 naira and the person has not paid, and the person is this, and the person is that, and the person is this, and the person is that. And yet you are owing somebody 100,000 naira and you have not paid, and you just feel like somebody has wronged you when you've wronged some other person, even equally. So I like to start the conversation really, because to start talking about lending is the easy thing to do, because all of us, we are so concerned about how to protect our money, how to do this, how to do that, right? And before I go into that proper, I want to raise a very important question that I believe that most of us would have been struggling with all along. And that question is, why is it that people just become something else when money is on the table? Why is it that people become something else when money is on the table? Why is it that even your parents, I mean, okay, let me share a certain story, yeah, of someone. And it's quite crazy because the person involved here are the parents, actually, the dad, right? So the guy was abroad and I said, send money for this, send money, want to re-roof the house. And the guy being concerned, having come from a poor background and having been really supported by his family, felt that one of the first contributions to make to the family was to really give the house a facelift, you know, to do this, do that. I was sending the money to the dad. I'm sure some of these stories are cliche already, but it's somebody's story. Was sending the money, do this, okay, do this, do that. He will send the money, and the man was living large with the money. He was just living large with the money. Like, you know that point where if you are abroad, your siblings in say in Nigeria, in this case, say your siblings live even in the abroad more than you. That he was living the life. I mean, you spend morning till night, wherever you are, whether the UK, US, or anywhere, you spend morning till night working. And these guys, the way they spend the money, the way they drive the cars, the way they spray money around, the way they sponsor drinks in parties, you are wondering. Now, I'm using this example to tell you that even as close as parents-child relationship, when money is on the table, people just become something else. Why is that so? Why is it that people tell you all the stories in the world that when they pay them salary at the end of the month, they're going to pay you and all that? And in your kind-heartedness, you helped out. And then it's the end of the month, and these guys just suddenly disappear. These guys have been paid, and then you are asking for your money. In fact, you start asking for your money. And at the point, you actually start begging for your money. So have you been wondering why? Because if you understand the psychology of money, the way people begin to behave when money is on the table, if you understand that well, it will just give you an idea as to how to even begin to deal with this thing, as to how to even deal with yourself. Because the same way, it's like the same way everybody behaves when money is on the table until you use your own hands to tame your demons, right? So why is it that people don't want to pay? Why is it that they have the money, like when you check their account balance, you find that the money is there, but they are not paying? Why is that so? It's important we understand that psychology. And I was thinking about it, seriously, I was thinking about it. And what came to mind is the fact that almost everything in this life, right? Almost everything about us have been tied to, everything about our survival has been tied to money. Just wherever you are now, wherever you are, just look around. Beginning from looking at yourself, you'll find that everything is money, right? The clothes you're putting on, the chair, the haircuts, you just took your bath, the cream, the laptop, the phone, everything. Just look around, everything is money, right? Such that if you are out of money, if you don't have money, there's just that sense of not being alive. There's just, I mean, that explains why just a credit alert can just lighten your mood, even if that credit alert is 200 naira, right? So when you understand that, and then you tie it to the first law of nature, which is self-preservation, you just find that with your money or with some other person's money, there's just a way you put yourself first. And the way to check it, and you can use yourself. Ask yourself, what is the smallest amount of money I'm owing right now? What's the smallest amount of money I am owing right now? How much is it? And let's say 10,000 naira. Let me just use it I say the smallest amount of money you are owing right now. Let's say it's 10,000 naira, right? You are owing somebody 10,000 naira. Now, you are the only one that knows what's in your account, right? What is, I mean, of all your accounts, does it mean you don't have 10,000 naira in your account? The smallest amount of money you are owing is 10,000 naira. Does it mean right now you don't have 10,000 naira in your account? Now, if you have 10,000 naira in your account, question to you, why have you not paid? And the reason is this. If the 10,000 naira you have in your account or the 20,000 naira you have in your account, when you are owing somebody 10,000 naira, let me say, maybe not all the money you are owing, say the smallest amount of money you are owing, let's say it's 10,000 naira. Why have you not paid? It is likely because you're already thinking about your breakfast tomorrow. You're already thinking about your transport to your place of work on Monday. You're already thinking about your stuff and how giving away that 10,000 naira to the owner of the 10,000, the owner of the 10,000 naira, you are giving that money to the owner of the 10,000 naira. But you are here considering, what if I give this 10,000 naira to its owner? What will happen to me? What will happen to, let's say you have a family. What will happen to my family? Let's say you just prioritize yourself, just put yourself first. You cannot imagine giving away that 10,000 naira and having nothing, even when the 10,000 naira belongs to another person, right? Now you can begin to understand. Remember I said, for you not to be one of the people who think that way, you need to work on yourself. If not, by our human nature, we can have that money, we can have multiples of it, but we'll keep doing the insurance, the personal insurance calculation. Maybe not food, maybe house rent, this. Something just makes you feel that it is not time to pay that money. And at a point in some people's head, something begins to tell them that they are not even supposed to pay the money at all. I will get to that point. Now, if you understand that this is how it works in people's head, if you understand that this is how it naturally works in your own head, it all starts from hacking it. And why I like to start with the borrowing bit is that karma is always something. Karma is always something. Whatever you want to call it, maybe if you want to see it in the religious light, you want to see it in the secular light, you want to see it as a universe doing whatever, you need to be sure, before you can properly enjoy the fruits of this conversation, you need to be sure that you have dealt with yourself first. You need to be sure that at the end of this call, the first thing you should do is check the people you are owing and those you can pay today and start paying them. So the conversation needs to begin with you. It needs to begin with you paying what you are owing. It needs to begin with you learning how to borrow responsibly so that you can stand the moral grounds to expect that from other people. And this is not preaching. This is just matter of fact. So what I'm trying to say is you need to take this conversation first to yourself and see how to deal with those you're already owing. And then for the subsequent borrowings you will do, if you are one of those who struggle with borrowing, if you are one of those who don't know how to borrow, people say that I don't know how to borrow. People say, I don't want to borrow, I don't want to owe people and all that. So if you struggle with borrowing, I will offer you right now 8 steps. 8 steps on how to borrow responsibly. And another way of putting it is 8 steps to becoming a responsible borrower. Before we get to the lending part, because usually, like I said, we want to know how to lend because we are the ones, right? We should learn how to pay first, learn how to borrow, and then we can now talk about learning how to lend, right? So I'll share those 8 steps with you. 8 steps that will help you be able to borrow better, to be able to borrow faster, right? And then after that, I will just share some thoughts, just a quick one. I will share some thoughts with you on how to take care of your existing debts, because some of us are owing so much that we don't even know how to start, So I'll tell you how to deal with that, because some people are just running. There are calls that will come to their phone and they want to run away, right? They don't want to pick because they don't even know what to start saying, right? But the truth is, as long as you don't take that call, you are complicating issues, right? So I'll just share quickly. If I forget that bit, I just remembered it now. I didn't put in the original presentation. If I forget that bit, you let me know, right? But it's usually difficult to find people like that here, right? The people who are here, usually people want to learn how to learn so that they don't get, that they get out of the trouble they usually are. So number one step is to build a great personal brand. And I'll be referring back to the banks, right? I'll be referring back to the banks. Number one is to build a great personal brand, right? Now, how it works is that, remember, okay, this is about the bank too. Do you know that it is not compulsory, it is not in any law that you must borrow with collateral? It's not in any law that you must borrow with collateral. In fact, if you go to the first world, just by finding your way there, just by being in that country, you will just see the credit card companies just be pouring the cards on you. They just want you to get their card. In fact, if you don't have a credit card and you don't build your credit score in those societies, you're even in trouble. So there's even a way that having to borrow is compulsory in those countries, right? Because by the time you want to do serious things in your life, they want to see your credit score. And you can't have a good credit score if you have not built it. And the only way to build that credit score is to be borrowing. So it means you now have to learn the science of borrowing in those societies. So what I'm trying to say is collateral. And in those countries, just that you are alive and breathing is your collateral. So the fact that the banks in Nigeria insist on collateral does not mean that it's a must to have collateral. There are many people who borrow from the banks. Most of these rich billionaires and all that borrow from the banks, they don't do collateral shit. And here I'm presenting to you, and I'm not just talking about the bank. Remember, our overall conversation is around personal lending and borrowing, right? So I'm trying to tell you that when you build a great personal brand, it is collateral. This is how it works. If people know you, if people like you, if people trust you, wherever I came from, however they came to know you, however they came to like you, and however they came to trust you, once they already have it for you, they'll carry it over into everything. I repeat that. When people already know you, when they already trust you, and when they already like you, right, they will carry it over into everything. And that includes money, right? And sometimes when people like all these celebrities and all these guys go to the banks and all these billionaires and popular people go to the bank to borrow, just on the basis of knowing them, liking them, and trusting them, I mean, whatever brand they have built, which is what I'm talking about here, the personal brand, they just get the money. Because they know that at the end of the day, you have built a brand, you have built a personal brand that you can't sell for cheap. So what I'm trying to say is, when people in your circle already, remember, when we talk about personal brand, the simplest way of describing it is, what are people saying about you in the room when you are not there? Well, they're saying about you when you are not there, right? If they are saying in that room that you're a trustworthy person, and they learn to trust you through other things you have done with them, you keep your word. If you say you want to show up for something, show up. If you say it's at this time, show up. And they've just come to like you for keeping your word. They will just carry that over when you come to borrow money from them. They already know you as somebody who keeps his word. So they can't imagine you not doing otherwise, right? So for you to be a responsible borrower, and for you to be able to access credit as quick as possible when you need it. And now, it is also important you accept that at the end of the day, in one way or the other, you will not be able to do without borrowing. And like I said, if you're in the first world, like the UK, Canada, US, and all that, borrowing is a must. Nobody comes with a gun to your head to go and borrow, right? But the society has been built in such a way that you need to borrow in order to build your integrity. Because The only way they can trust you is through your credit score. And you cannot build your credit score without actually borrowing, right? So let's not say, I don't have to borrow, so this is not important, or I don't, no. In Nigeria, or outside Nigeria, for emergency reason, or for one reason or the other, you find yourself needing people to borrow. And these thoughts I'm sharing with you right now, they're important for you to be able to navigate that. And I've said number one is to build an irresistible personal brand so that people, through other things you do, maybe your job, maybe through writing, maybe through wherever, they come to know you, they come to like you, and they come to trust you. And if you already have that, they'll carry it over into other things. And that's very important, right? Number two is when you come to people to borrow from them, offer them something that looks like a collateral. And this is what I mean by offer them something that looks like a collateral. If you are my friend, and my best friend at that, JP is on this call, my very great friend. If JP comes to me that he wants to, okay, I think I'm the one at the borrowing end now. If I come to JP to lend me money, right? If I come to JP to lend me some money, right? And I just say, JP, please lend me 5,000 pounds and just leave it at that. The chances that he will say he doesn't have 5,000 pounds will be, okay, not JP here. Let me just use any other person. The chances of saying he does not have 5,000 pounds, right? If I just come to him and say, JP, lend me 5,000 pounds and I'll pay you back. Just lend, of course, by saying lend me, it already presupposes that I'll pay back. But if I just show up and say, JP, lend me 5,000 pounds, I'll pay you back. The chances of him saying he doesn't have, remember, people say I don't have sometimes for the reasons I'll share with you later. So sometimes it's not that they don't have the money there, right? But it's just that whatever money people have, there's already something for that money, right? And if they cannot trust that you can return that money at the time they need it, it's as good as they don't have it. So when people tell you, I don't have, there are two ways. It's either it's not there, which is a possibility, and it's either that it's there, but it has been earmarked for something that we cannot afford not to do, and because we cannot trust that you get the money back at the time we need it. So it's as good as that money does not exist. That's also I don't have, right? So this point I'm trying to share with you is how to increase the likelihood of people having when you come to them, right? In the sense that the money is there, but they can trust you to use it and get it back so that they can also use it. Because at the end of the day, money is nothing but a tool for getting things done. So if you can use the same money, get your stuff done, and I use the same money too and get my stuff done, I mean, we are putting money to good use, right? But the only reason why I'll tell you that I don't have when the money is there is because if I give you this cutlass now, I know you use it and go and start cutting stone. And at the end of the day, I can't use it to cut my grass. So I don't have cutlass, right? So what I'm trying to say is for you to increase the chances of people for you to increase the chances of people's willingness to share their tool with you, which is money in this case, right? Offer them. Don't let them ask you because they won't ask you, right? Offer them what looks like a collateral. Because if you walk into the bank right now and say, bank, lend me this amount of money, and sorry about the video, I'll just restore it in a second. Just a second. If you tell the bank, lend me this amount of money, I'll get it back to you in 3 days. I have a house that is worth 100 million naira and I'm borrowing 10 million from you. And I'm borrowing 10 million from you. If I don't pay you this money after 3 days, come and take the house. I can assure you that 10 out of 10 banks will lend you the money. You get, because you went there and you offered the bank the collateral. Or, I mean, for a bank, they'll ask you. So, I mean, for a bank, they'll ask you. But I'm trying to places side by side with the personal finance angle. When you go to a bank and say, bank, lend me 10 million, I have a house, look at the house, look at the plan, look at the papers. It's all, you can see, it's actually mine, right? So lend me this amount of money, I'll pay you back in 1 month. If I'm not able to pay you back, come take the house. 10 out of 10 banks will lend you the money. Why? Because number one, the money is, it's a foolproof deal, because if they give you the money, and like I said, Nigeria, the interest rate on lending is 13%. They are sure of getting their 13%. And if you don't pay back, they are sure of confiscating your house, helping you to sell it, taking the much they want to, and maybe buying it themselves at a very discounted stuff and then just dealing with it. What I'm trying to say is, when there's a collateral, the bank lends you money straight up, right? Now, in personal, borrowing, offer the collateral. Don't let them ask you, because they won't ask you. Remember, counting, they know that it's because you are their friend, and probably you have done some very good things for them before, gone above and beyond for them before. So that will just not let them ask you for anything, right? But to increase the chances of them accepting, offer it to them. And what do I mean by offer it to them? Offering it to them. It's not like they should come and take. You also couch your offer in a friendly way too, right? That's okay. JP, lend me £5,000. I want to do this with it, right? And this thing I want to do with it is very important. And here's how I'm going to pay you. Because that's the part they're interested in. If they have the £5,000, because of the relationship, they already want to give it to you. But it's like, if you get what it means to have £5,000, it's crazy, right? But they want to be sure that they have not finished sweating and they are coming to give £5,000 to go and put in a Ponzi scheme, or to go and do one useless thing that will just lead to stories and then destroy the friendship. The easiest way that people get out of that mess is just to tell you, I don't have £5,000. Simple and short, right? But because you really need that £5,000, how do you increase the chances of them not saying no? And that's why I'm saying, offer it to them. Now, okay, the £5,000, this, and this I'm going to pay you. On this day, I'm going to pay you this way, right? Now, I'm saying offer at least 3 sure ways you're going to pay that money back. Offer at least 3 sure ways you are going to pay the money back, because they already trust you. They are their friend. They already care about you because you care about them. So that's not what we are talking about now. The only thing we are talking about right now is how to get £5,000 back. And if you cannot assure them that they can get £5,000 back, the answer is I don't have. Because if they will not tell you I have, but I won't give to you. Almost nobody will say that, right? Even you won't say that. And remember what I said, it's possible they really don't have, but you are not in their bank account, so you won't know. So you take whatever comes to you, which is a no, but you would love to have a yes, right? So you offer them how you are going to pay this thing, not just one way. Because if you say, okay, I'll be paid by the end of the month and all that, and something in their head says, what if you're a Nigerian university lecturer and then that's the month that has to start a strike, and for the past how many months they have not paid them? How am I going to get my money back? So in your head, you thought that telling them when they pay you salary work. That could work, but not foolproof yet. So that can stand as one plan. So you offering it should ask yourself, right? And if that doesn't work, what next? You should be able to offer the next thing, right? The next thing could be, okay, if the salary doesn't come, but it usually comes. But just in case the salary doesn't come, right? I have this investment. But you can edit it and put your own. But the idea is give them at least 3 things that they can see. They can see, because we are not fools, right? They can see, they know, they're already your friends. So it's not like you can manufacture something from the blues, right? Or, okay, I have this mutual fund thing here. This is the amount of money there. You can even show them. You see the funny thing, when you are showing them, they'll tell you, no, you don't have to show me now, we are friends, but they are looking at it. That's the game, right? They're looking at it, they just need the guarantee, right? That big mutual fund thing, the only reason why I'm not taking from this money is that when I take from this money, and maybe they something, I'll lose this percentage, or maybe I have to pay this. You know, some of those things, like if you have money locked with piggy vest and for you to withdraw before the due date, you lose this amount of money and all that. I have this money, but I don't want to lose that percentage. But if the salary doesn't come, I can afford to take that loss in order to keep my word, right? That's the second thing. And if that doesn't work, so what I'm trying to say is, for some of us, we may not have up to 3 things to offer, right? But offer at least 2 ways to pay that money, and not just believe that the fact that you're the one asking them for the money is enough to get the money from them. I mean, I can tell you for free, they've had people closer to them than you that have shown them pepper. So it's not your fault. It's what the people who came before you have done that you are suffering, right? So what I'm trying to say is, if you offer, remember I said they won't ask you because of the relationship, right? They won't ask you, but you should offer. And when you offer, it becomes almost irresistible to say no. And sometimes if they don't have it, because they care about your current problem, and because they now know that you have foolproof ways of paying the money, right? They can go and borrow for you. They'll use their name, borrow from their own friends, give to you, knowing that with what you have presented, you will be able to pay the money, right? So that's the second thing. I've said, offer the equivalent of what the bank people call collateral when you are borrowing. It just increases the chances of saying yes. Because the real fear is not to lose their money, right? If you can assure them that they are not going to lose their money, you can be sure that they will get it, it will go through more easily, right? Then the third one is, I said, give a speech, give a great speech, and I mean, I don't mean in the sense of the formal, but let's what you tell them, you know, also showcase your understanding that if they don't lend the money, that is okay. And be genuine about it. So it's the genuineness. Remember, I said, I'm not saying you should go and game people, right? I've explained what I meant by the game of lending and borrowing. We're trying to get inspiration from the banks, right? Get inspirations from the banks in order to do our personal lending and borrowing better. That's what I meant by game, right? Or you should tell people, because sometimes people, when you come to borrow from people, you put them on the spot. It's like a hot spot. And they begin to feel like even the friendship is on trial. And they begin to struggle, right? And that's not a good place to put people you care about. And you should be able to express that if they don't have to lend to you, or if they're not in a good place at the moment, it's fine, right? You should be able to say that and say genuinely, because people are not fools. They know when you are gaming them, right? And they know when you are being real. So you should be able to express either in words or gesture or however you want to show it, that this is not about us. We are not on trial here. It's just that I need money. And I understand if it's a no, that's I'll check other places and stuff. You should be able to say that, so that let them know that whether they have it or not, they are good with the whole thing. It means a lot for people, right? It means a whole lot for people. And then you should be able to showcase also that speech that you understand that what is being given you is even more of trust than the money. Because sometimes the money is not the problem. Sometimes the trust they are giving you. Because everybody who tells you they're going to pay you back at this time or at that time, you trusted them. Beyond the money, you trusted them. Because sometimes the money people have taken from you, you can afford to just dash them and go your way, right? But it just hurts you that somebody who you took their word for something just played you for a fool. It can be so hurtful, right? So you should be able to showcase the fact that you understand that it's trust you are getting even before the money. And, you know, express your commitment to not let your word fall to the ground. You should be able to say that. So these things put together just gets to increase the chances of you getting something and then paints you as a responsible borrower. Because if somebody tells you he doesn't have or tells you he's not giving enough, it should not mean anything. It should not mean anything because it's not your money. We should get to that point where we accept that people's money is their money and not your money. Yeah, because there's a lot of entitlement thinking that complicates issues at the end of the day. We go and start telling stories that this person I helped the other time, and now let him help me, he's not helping me. I mean, that is what it means to be responsible, actually. Because people's money will always be their money. And the best gift you can give to yourself is to accept that people's money is their money. And they can do with it whatever they want to do with it, right? That's very important. Then the next point, which is the fourth one, is bordering around payback time. Now you've said you pay this money on the 10th of this month, or this day, or by the end of the month, and all that, and all that, and all that. It is your responsibility to do whatever it takes to keep your word. And there are twofold. The next point, I'll make something. So it is your job to do whatever it takes to keep your word. Here is what will happen. If you don't pay the money on the day you've promised to pay it, nobody will kill you. I mean, it's even in our Igbo saying or whatever that they don't kill the person who is owing, right? So nobody's gonna kill you, but you've lost something. You've lost something. You've lost a very important resource that is even more than money, which is goodwill, right? And nobody will respond to you in the same way like they did the previous time if you don't follow through on your payback commitments, right? And there are two things to do in this regard. There are two things to do. Number one will be part of this payback plan. Then number two will be the fifth item I will share. Number one is, for instance, if I came borrowing 10,000 naira from you, right? And I told you I'm going to pay you next week. And I told you I'm going to pay whatever, you know. And then it gets to that day and I'm not able to pay, right? I have always recommended that a good way to get out of that, mess is to rob Peter to pay Paul. And what do I mean? I mean, it's in our common parlance, but some of us have not learned how to put it to positive use, right? Robbing Peter to pay Paul means if you have another person you can borrow 10,000 naira from, you go borrow 10,000 naira from the person and pay this other guy and push the payment dates forward. That's just what you do. So I came to you today, borrowed 10,000 naira and said I'll pay you on Monday because I believed I was going to get this or that, whatever I thought for why I gave you Monday, right? Now it's Monday and there's no money. Instead of coming back to you to say, sorry, today is Monday, I couldn't get the money and stuff. Instead of doing that, that's not the first thing you should do. That's a losing strategy. Because the truth is that if you do that, right, people say, when you cut a rope and join it, it's not the same rope anymore, right? But you've joined it, right? But it's not the same rope anymore. So what I'm trying to say is the first thing to do is not to go and tell the person there is no money. If you have another person you can borrow 10,000 naira from and tell the person Friday, go and borrow from the other person and pay this person, keep your word, right? And then what you have simply done is that you have moved the payment date to Friday that is more realistic, right? And then you have kept your word with this person. And by Friday, if you pay, you have also kept your word with this person and you are good. Now, we already have relationship with these people. And there are times when we have done for them. So they are not counting it, right? It becomes a problem when it's Monday and after Monday, you don't pay. It becomes a problem, right? But if you're able to do that, so my recommendation is the first strategy or the first thing to do is to explore robbing Peter to pay Paul. Now, in the event that that's not possible, in the event that there's no Peter, right, to rob, in order to pay Paul. You've checked it, you've reached out to as many people as you can reach out to and stuff, you know. In the event that that's not possible, we get to the fifth point. And the fifth point is that you don't run away. Yeah, so something happens, right? So my problem with telling some of these stories these days, you don't know who is even listening, right? So some people tell you two things. One came from yesterday and one came from some days ago. I mean, two people we have money problems. I mean, it's something we are all suffering, isn't it? So one told me that he did not call me because he didn't have the courage to call me. So he has called it lack of courage, right? Cowardice. That he was not able to keep his word, then he lacks the courage to call me, to tell me, okay, this happened, right? Then the other guy told me that it's because of shame. It's because of shame that he was not able to call me. Shame. One said lack of courage, one said shame, right? So what I'm telling you today is, you see these two words when it comes to borrowing and at the events that you cannot keep your word, right? Courage, cowardice, and shame. Just carry them and put in the waste bin. It is more important to somebody you are owing that you are showing up, that you are taking the call or that you are calling. It is more important to the person than you are not calling at all or you are not picking the call at all. Now, don't expect them to be nice. You fucked up, right? Don't expect them to be nice. So when that guy calls you and he's shouting on you on the phone, I trusted you, the person is angry. And that's anger speaking. And you may actually have hurt the person because the person was supposed to use that money for doing for something else and all that, right? You've hurt the person. So the person should be angry. So what I'm trying to say is, don't, because of what the person will say to you, don't, because of the person's reaction, run away. Don't do that. Because inside the person, and we've all been there before. So it's something we've all experienced one way or the other. We've all been there before, right? It's something the person will appreciate that you show up. It's something the person will appreciate that you own up to. It's something the person will appreciate that you just keep showing up. So it's very important. But what you are supposed to do differently, is that you keep tab on things. If you borrowed money from me and you planned to pay on Monday because you thought the money will come on Sunday, right? You should make that call earlier. You should make the call earlier. Don't wait until Monday, because if I had promised people that same money, or if I was going to use that same money to do my stuff, I would already have scheduled that on Monday, this money is going to come and I will do my stuff. So as much as possible, if you already got a wind of it by Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or whenever, that this thing does not look possible, and then that there's no Peter to rob in order to pay for, make that call already. As much as possible, make it before Monday. Because remember, the whole conversation we're having right now is how to be a responsible borrower. Because it is in being a responsible borrower that you will have money, you will be able to borrow more often when you need to, and you'll be able to get yes when you need to, and even fast, right? So what I'm trying to say is, if it's not gonna work, if you get the wind of it that it's not gonna work by this time, by that time, you should start making the call earlier. And as much as possible, don't let the person call you first. Let it not be on the person's call that you are saying you are not able to pay. That is irresponsibility. I repeat, that is irresponsibility. As soon as you know that the money is not going to be available as promised, right? And you cannot find Peter to rob in order to pay Paul, right? Make the call already and begin to prepare the person so that you don't set up a chain of disappointments. Because if I'm supposed to get that money from you and give it to somebody, and I've told the person that I will get the money on Monday and give to the person either on Monday, or even I put in factor of safety and told the person Tuesday. Once you don't pay me that money, I've disappointed the next person. And if that person was supposed to use it to pay school fees, for instance, you don't pay me that money, I don't give the person the school fees, and the person does not pay the school fees, and the person does not write the exam, right? So sometimes when I'm shouting at you, it's not because you didn't pay me money. It's because there's something at the end that's happening that you don't know about, right? Which is the fact that somebody is supposed to write WAEC is not writing WAEC because you were irresponsible. But if you had told me earlier, maybe a day before, maybe 2 days before, I will still not clap for you, right? Because sometimes it is the same entitlement mentality that makes us feel that if you call somebody and say, I'm not able to pay you, then the person should clap for you. Or the person should tell you, oh, no problem, no problem. Remember, I told you what money means to people. If you toy with their money, those who are evil will kill you, right? But those who carry Bible on their head and love God will still not be happy with you. I don't know, I've not met anybody that claps for you when you mess with their money, right? So what I'm trying to say is, if the money is not going to be available by that time, and there's no Peter to rob in order to pay Paul, right? You should start making the call early, and don't expect the person to be nice to you, right? So that's where this our brother Shaggy guy will come in. I mean, a very funny way. I love it whenever he says, my bad, I take full responsibility. Your call should reflect the fact that you are taking full responsibility for having fucked up. You are not gonna there, you are my friend, you are, no. Everything you should say should reflect the fact that you fucked up and take full responsibility for it, right? But it cannot end there. It cannot end there, which is where the next point comes in. It cannot end there, which is where the next point comes in, right? The next point is, now you need to give a new date. So you can't tell me that you can't pay me on Monday and then keep quiet, right? You can't do that. Now, the next thing you must be committed to is you should have done all the maths. You should have done all the maths to be sure of the next date you are going to give, that the affliction may not arise a second time. It is very important. You should have done all the maths to ensure that we are not going to have another conversation as to why you did not pay the money, right? And after that maths, you should be able to present it. See, let's be clear. Having failed, and I described it as cutting a rope and joining it, right? Having failed, you should be sure that the next thing you are saying, the person is not even inclined to believe in at the same time, right? But it's not about him, it's not about her. It's about you being a responsible borrower and wanting to redeem your image. If you're able to get it right the second time, good for you, right? But the person is already hot. But if you get it right the second time, it saves the day. So what I'm trying to say, before you make the next promise, you should do your calculation very well. You should explore your insurance policies and the different things you may be able to do in order to get that done, right? Then you make the next promise. I mean, the person won't kill you to start with, and the person will accept it one way or the other, right? Or you can negotiate it, right? The person might tell you that day you are giving work because I need to go to hospital this day, I need to pay my child's school fees this day, or whatever. Whatever you negotiate and arrive at, right? Now, your goal should be, and it's very important, make sure you keep that one. And that's the next point. Make sure you keep that one. That's number 6. Now, number 7, very important, right? Now, there's something very funny about life, right? And that's the fact that life can keep happening. And you might find yourself in that place where that second deadline or that second promise, that second date has reached, and that money is still not there, and there is no Peter to rob in order to pay Paul, right? So remember, we are all human beings trying to live this life, trying to figure out things here, right? And we've all been at that point where we couldn't pay the first time and where we couldn't pay the second time. So we all have the same experience in this life, one way or the other, right? So when you are telling somebody why you were not able to pay the first time, and remember, the person is already related to you in one way or the other. The person is already your friend. The person can relate, right? The person can relate. Now, when it turns out that the second time you still don't have the money, there is also that time in the person's life where the person still did not have the money the second time. Now, whatever you have to say, if the person is a kind person, if the person is a good person, the person might also be able to relate. Now, the point I've said is, don't take the fact that the person can relate and expect the person to excuse you. That doesn't happen. Because as a strategy, the person will also feel that putting you under pressure would make you explore different options to pay the money. So there's no point they'll come and clap for you. Because you know that if they clap for you that way, you'll relax, right? Now, the point I'm trying to make here is, even if that second time fails, keep showing up. Keep showing up. Keep showing up. Don't run away. Don't ignore calls. Don't ignore chats. Don't ignore texts. Keep showing up. Say whatever you can say, but be present. Keep showing up. Say whatever you can say. Respond to every message, but be present. Because your presence is more important than whatever you are doing. Sometimes people need to know that you are responsible. That's the word. Remember, the overall context of this subsection of the presentation is responsible borrowing. People need to know, because sometimes your stories, maybe your parents were hospitalized, right? And then you thought it was just mommy's headache or something, and then you were borrowing 50,000 naira from a friend to take your mother to the hospital. And then you go to the hospital and the doctors did the diagnosis and they are saying cancer. And it means that you still have to pour in millions of naira. So it means you still have to, so somebody who didn't have as little as 50,000 had to borrow 50,000 to take the mom to the hospital. And now the doctors are saying cancer, and they are saying for chemo, for this, for that, you have to deposit 500,000, you have to do. The person will just keep borrowing now, and the person will just not be able to pay anytime soon. Now, people who are humane, and the person who lent you that 50,000 naira, and now knows that your mother has cancer, not the headache, the person knows that he will kill you. But when you start running, when you start hiding, you complicate issues, because people's blood pressure begin to rise, that you have run away with their money. But if they can't have their money, let them at least have you, that you are present. Let them be able to look you in your face and see that you are responsible. You are responding to your, your obligation. It just helps a lot. And I give you two personal, experience, right? So this guy, what was the same thing happened? We had business doing, my very good friend. We had business doing, and then I had 200K the business, and the dad was diagnosed of cancer, actually, this prostate cancer thing. And without telling me, because he was afraid of what my, my decision would be, he liquidated the business and took all the money to treat the man, and kept telling me on the phone that, okay, business is going well, I'll pay this day, I'll pay, that kind of thing that people will tell you, hoping that. And when I heard the entire story, he was hoping that maybe the sister would bring money that he would use to settle me and stuff. But it kept getting bad. He kept having to look for more money and stuff. But now what happened? Eventually, when he couldn't lie anymore, he had to come clean. Now, what pained me, remember, the one who's 200,000 is missing. What pained me was that you couldn't tell me that your father had cancer and that was what you used the money to do. That was what pained me. It wasn't the money anymore. That was what pained me. And from that day, the guy will be showing up, he'll call me and apologize, sorry about the money, I'm trying to get the money, I'm trying to do this. If I call him, he will answer. Like just one dial, he will answer. And be like, okay. I said, no, it's not the money that I called you for. I just called to check on your father. What's going on? How is he? If I send a text, he will reply. I was just tired. So one day I called him. So I was praying one day and was like, God, with this kind of burden on this guy, what would you have me do for him? Remember, now I'm using myself to describe what could be going on in the head of a lender. And you can bet that people are not good, right? So I was like, God, what would you want me to do for this guy? This burden is too much for him. And what just came to my mind, I don't know, was just let him have the money. If you are thinking of what to do for him, it's your friend, just dash him the money. So I picked up my phone and called him. Say, young man, you're my friend, we grew up together, you've been awesome. And I understand that this, your temptation has got you into this mess and all that. So that money, don't pay me anymore. So let's count it that I donated 200K to your father's treatment. So we cancel that money, right? So you can't bet that. And the only thing that made this possible was the guy was responsible. Yeah, he fucked up, right? But like all of us, remember, I saw the fuck up, hands in the air. We are all there. And I could relate. I could imagine. I could picture what if I were the one, right? I let him have the money. And that was how it went. So you can't bet that people cannot relate with your situation, right? So his second friend that way was owing me, how much was that? 150K. And he will call me and tell me, see, he's so sad that he has not been able to pay this money, but he's trying. He will call me again. Some other time he will call me. So one day when he called me, I was so touched that somebody will be calling me this way to tell me that, sorry, I've not paid. So I now asked him, what's your story? What's your problem? You know that point where somebody is telling you his problem. I mean, for real. So there's an existing relationship and something verifiable, right? I was so frozen listening to that story. I was so frozen. In fact, the day I asked him to tell me that story, what he had done was he had gone to look for 50,000 out of the 150,000. He had gone to look for 50,000, called me to send him that I should send him my account number, that I just found 50,000 now to send to me, that he's working on it, that it won't be more than 1 month and he'll pay up the rest. I was so shocked by somebody who can be this responsible. So I called him. I said, yeah, tell me what happened. What happened? What happened to that money? Why have you not been able to pay? So while he was telling me his story, I was like, oh my God, somebody passing through all this. And as the call ended, I started thinking, what can I do for this guy? I called him and said, okay, this 50,000 you have sent. I'm using myself as, to represent what lenders can be thinking. And then you are there running away. So they want to know. So I've said, don't expect that they'll clap for you. They will shout, they will threaten you. They will say whatever they want to say to you, right? But somewhere in their heart, they will still appreciate the fact that you are responsible. And that can make all the difference. Keep showing up. Keep showing up. If they bring the police to arrest you, be arrested. Just keep showing up. You'll be all right, right? So in essence, what we're trying to say is responsible borrowing is something we should all aspire to, because one way or the other, at one point or the other, we will need to borrow as long as you are in this life. No man, no woman is self-sufficient. One thing or the other, emergency, an investment opportunity that is fatter than your current capacity, that you know is a short deal, you need to borrow. Something would make you need. Remember, we can talk about the whole good debts and the bad debt and stuff, but that's not within the purview of this conversation, right? So responsible borrowing is something we should first aspire to and inculcate, right? And that will put us on the moral pedestal to even be able to have the lending conversation, right? To be able to have the lending conversation, because we are quick to say we want to know how to lend people, people have done this to us, and you have forgotten what you have done to people. And without due respect, some people are very responsible borrowers already, right? But I mean, I'm talking generally and whatever it amounts to. So the point is, if you're able to take care of your borrowing end, and you can strike your chest and say, I think I do my best, right? We can now have the lending conversation. Right? And personally, I was able to bring myself to that point where there are times when I wake up in the morning, I have a lot of jotters here. If I remembered, I would have got one. When I wake up in the morning, sometimes I'll just list everybody I'm owing, right? List all of them, and it has happened quite a number of times. I'll list all of them, and I did some of it this morning. I'll list all of them, 1, 2, 3, however the number, the names, the amount, the accounts, right? I'll just write all of them on paper, then get my bank app. Maybe a client just paid me, maybe say 300,000. Maybe I just got 300,000 now, right? Yeah, I see somebody raising the hand. I'll just, as soon as we're done, we'll take questions, right? Because we are raising against time, and I just want to cover the last bits around lending, and then we'll have the questions and conversations around it. So I list all of it, all of them, and then bring that money, get the app, bring the money, and start transferring from the first person till when it becomes insufficient fund, right? So I just try to, because I know that I should be able to be on that moral pedestal to even engage the lending conversation, right? Just transfer, I should pay. And when I pay, there's just a way people pay you. And it's not automatic though, right? But it just means that you are that person who is deciding to give people a great lending experience. And it's very important. And then we move over quickly to the lending bits, right? Now, which is what most of us have been, waiting for, which is what most of us really want to hear, right? Now, I want to share with us 3 classes of people that you either shouldn't lend to at all, or know what you're doing to yourself when you're lending to them. 2 things I've said. You either shouldn't lend to them at all, or know what you're doing to yourself when you're lending to them, so that it's clear to you what you have done. It's clear to you what you have done, and you know that this is what I've done. So 3 of them, right? And before I go into presenting 3 of them, right, I want to tell us something. At the end of the day, some of us are too good to survive this life. Some of us are too good to survive this life. Somebody comes telling you all the stories in this world, and you're already shedding tears, and your heart, your chest is already paining you. My brother is dying. My sister is this. My father is this. And you go and start running helter-skelter to look for money to give to them, and you are just a victim of your kindness, right? So what I like to tell people in the first place is that when it is money matter, because there are many of us that are suffering today because our fathers did not have sense. Our parents did not have sense. I was talking with a friend the other day, and we're talking about how our parents trained this person, did this, did that. And I could tell the shock on his face when I told him that our parents actually did not have sense. Because they did not have sense. Somebody just come and tell you, you get a call from the village, my business is this. They just pack their entire salary and said, your younger brother calls you from university and says we should buy Amweba. You just pack money and send. This one tells you, lend me this, you just send. Because you want to be able to sleep well. Because your heart is, So what I'm trying to say is, when it is money, you need to get your head to ask your heart to behave itself, right? And then look at things for their merits. It is very important. You look at things for their merits. And you don't take, there's something for each person. There are people that are our primary responsibilities. There are people that are our primary responsibilities. And say for a single person, for instance, the primary responsibilities are your parents, for a single person, your parents, and your younger siblings. Remember, I said primary responsibilities. The people that you owe primary responsibilities. Then there can be the secondary ones, which is like your older siblings, your cousins, and whatever. Maybe your best friends, your stuff. And then there's the tertiary ones, however you enter that relationship with them, right? Now, it's very important to always remember this when you are doing, whoever is not your primary responsibility, right? There's only so much you can do for the person. And it needs to be clear to you so that when your heart is trying to jump out of their mouth and all that, that person is someone else's primary responsibility. And you should also ask yourself, what has the people to whom you are primary responsibilities, what have they done about that matter? Because sometimes we just carry the thing on our head, like everything depends on us. We'll carry this one, want to lend to everybody, and then just mess yourself up with the kinds of people we describe here. So what I'm trying to say is, when it comes to money generally, right? Settle down. Like if somebody comes to you and be like, lend me money, settle down, like balance well, sit well, and talk, they talk. Ask all the questions. They say they want to borrow, Abi. Whether it's your father, whether it's your mother, they said they want to borrow, right? Talk, they talk. Okay. Because some of these people come and we are scared, we don't want to offend them. We'll start dilly-dallying about it. They are not even saying when they will pay. They are not even saying how they will pay. They are not saying anything. You just pick your app and transfer money to them. How should they pay? Because as much as we talk about the responsible borrowing, we should also talk about responsible lending. Yeah, because you should, the day it will clear your eye, is the day you will now go to borrow from them. Okay, I don't have. The day you will now not build your own financial empire and you are struggling, you are falling, which is what has happened to some of our parents. And that younger brother, that he closed his shop and sold his land to send to America, is now the richest man in the village. And your father is probably now a one papa. And he doesn't even care. Once he will send him 20K. I mean, once he will send 100K. I mean, but this is somebody your dad was practically selling his stuff for, right? You see that people have sense when it's their own, and it's your own, you don't have sense. I mean, so what I'm trying to say, the first point I'm trying to say is, once it is money, sit down and talk, they talk. It is your money, right? You love them, you care about them and all that, but they've come to you to borrow. Talk the lending and borrowing talk, and talk it hard. When they say, cut up for me now, dash me money now, this, you know what you're doing. Whatever you can do, you do for the person. When they come to you that they want to borrow, talk, they talk. So sometimes the problem is that we did not, you should be able to ask somebody, how do you want to pay? When am I getting my money back? And they tell you on this date. You should be able to now ask, how are you going to get the money? And they tell you, I'm going to get this. You should ask them again. If that doesn't work, how else would I get the money? You should see their game plan. You should see their payment plan. And what you discover when you talk the talk is usually, most of them don't have any plan. Usually, most of them don't have any plan. And the only way to know that they don't have any plan is to talk, ask questions. It's your money. Let nobody make you feel guilty for asking about the welfare of your money. Because the way you get this money, you know the way you get this money. You know the sleepless nights, you know the hustle, and you just carry the money and throw it away that way. Talk, they talk. It's very important. That is when you now be able to differentiate the three classes of people I'm going to describe to you right now. And I understand we are running out of time, right? There are three classes of people you should pay attention to as far as lending and borrowing is concerned, or lending. We're on the lending part now. I just give them random names, right? So the first set of people, I call them the entitlers. So entitlements, entitlers, right? The entitlers. The second set of people, I call them the scammers. And the third set of people, I call them the irresponsibles. So the entitlers, the scammers, the irresponsibles will now do it one after the other, right? And I'll start with our experience with our parents. You know, if your mom or your dad have ever asked you to lend them money, I mean, especially when we're children, you can be sure that 10 out of 10 of the times, except for maybe some other parents who are not in this category, and you will know, I will tell you how to do, right? And you will know, apart from parents who are not in this category, right? You just know that when it's time to pay, what do they tell you? Have you finished paying me your school fees that I'm paying for you? Your mom will tell you something like, the breast milk I fed you, have you paid? I mean, if this one came to you to lend me that your 500 naira, and this is your mother. I mean, my mother, it doesn't get more trustworthy than my mother, right? Put your hand in your pocket, no, 500. I'll give you back tomorrow. Tomorrow has reached. Mommy, how far am I 500? All the food I've been giving to you in this house. All the food I've been giving to you in this house. Now, here's the point I want to make. I just use that as an analogy, right? Here's the point. There are people who already feel they are entitled to everything you have. They're entitled to everything you have. Family, by virtue, is my son now. I mean, he's my son. He's my son. Right? So he can tell you just somehow. I mean, you can do everything. So anybody who already exhibits tendency of entitlement towards you and what you own, it is most likely that when they borrow from you, they will pay. Now, lend me becomes their passcode for cashing out. Lend me, dash, dash, dash. That lend is passcode for cashing out. You get the point? It becomes so you are the one who is borrowing from you. They are using lend to sell you the hope that the money is going to come back, but they are not borrowing from you. They know they are not borrowing from you. You are the one that does not know that they are not borrowing from you. You get the point? So when I say lend me, you should already know, by virtue of them fitting into that entitlement class, you should already know that it will take the grace of God for them to pay. So they're never going to pay back. Your dad is coming to say, lend me. He's just trying to have, here's the game they are playing, right? If I come to you and say, dash me 5,000 pounds, that's ridiculous. Sorry. I will most likely not even answer you, right? That's ridiculous, right? So, no show. But if I come and say, lend me 5,000 pounds, I'm selling you the hope that you're going to get the 5,000 pounds back because I want 5,000 pounds. It's not dash 5,000 pounds. You want, right? And I want 5,000 pounds. I'll come and say, lend me 5,000 pounds. Selling you the hope that you're going to get it back. And without you knowing, that lend me is code for cashing out. I mean, you've been doing well for God's sake, and I've not quite eaten your money. So let me say, lend me. And oh, yeah, come and collect it now. Just somewhere that, you know, the whole Nigeria, I come and collect it now. Your 5K don't move, right? And let's not even go far. Let's not even go far. I mean, let me check those on this call now. At least my brother is not here. Let me use the example. So now called me the other day. Called me and was like, okay, there's something urgent I need. It's very important and all that. Lend me 10,000 naira. Lend me 10,000 naira. And I felt, okay, this is my, I kind of thing. Okay, transfer 10,000 naira to him, right? See, I talked with this guy once, like we always talk, right? We are not, that's 10,000 naira is not, does not exist. That conversation does not even come up. The day I brought it up, because, the day I brought it up, Dana, you collected 10,000 naira from you. You have not paid. You needed to see how that money was dismissed. You need to see how that money was dismissed. It became very clear to me that this guy did not borrow money from you. He did not borrow money from you. I mean, he simply cashed out. I mean, how better would he have gotten 10,000 naira from me speedily, if not to say, lend me 10,000 naira? I'm trying to say is, when people who come to borrow from you fall in that category of people who feel entitled, and you will know already, these are not new people. These are people you grew up with. These are people you have always known. So you know that they already feel entitled to your stuff. When they come to shall know that there's a 60% chance that they will not pay because they did not borrow actually. So borrowing or lend me was code word for cashing out. This is the fruit of my labor, and the only way I can make this guy give it to me sharp is to say lend me. So it was never borrowing really. So you should know that. So all those in that category, when they come to borrow, sit down and advise yourself well. Ask yourself, am I yet in charge for the need for me? Can I afford to give this guy 10K now as child and all that? If the answer is no, right? That's when you can come to when those people earlier, when we're saying those who say they can only learn what they can afford to do. Because lending you, I don't have £1,000, but I have £2,000, right? So I give you £2,000 and then would person pays you, glory be to God. Get your money, it's your money for God's sake. But if it turns out that it's an exercise in cashing out, right? You always knew. So that's the game. You always knew. So you are not surprised. You gave him to him or whatever. So you should know those people, and there are many of them, so that you don't fall a victim. You sit down, you check well, and do what you can do, or say the answer has to be no, and then find other ways to do all that. Now, this people, there's a very interesting way to people, right? Because even that they are family, even that they are friends, they are not happy with you. It matters. If they're not happy with you, it matters. It is because if people will sell you out, if people will mess, it will really come from this set of people. Right? So what to do for these people, right? Which is the game I'm talking about in that positive sense, is to have a reward program for them. Have a reward where you do things for them without, so that it sets a precedence in their head. You are already positively disposed towards them and can do anything for them, right? So that when they ask in a way and you say no, they have precedence already to show that you are not stingy, you are not wicked, you are not this and that. So it's like stakeholder management. That's the way I like to describe it. Those very close to your house, those who share the same building with you, those who know all your shit, those who know your secrets, people to make unhappy, right? And the way to save yourself from this scamming that comes from them borrowing from you is to have an established reward program for them, right? You're going to the village, for instance, you buy stuff, phones, whatever, and they did not ask for, come give them. Oh, I thought of you, you have been very supportive. I remember when I was a kid, you give to them. Once, when you call them, send money to them. They didn't ask. You send them and all that. Just maintain the relationship that way. So that if it calls, be like £5 and stuff, I don't have, I mean, I just paid my rent or whatever you want to tell them to just get them off. But they will remember that when you supposedly had, and even when they did not have, you were doing. So with the entitlers, right? Stakeholder management, you know, because you can't just say no and keep saying no. You get into trouble. So find a way to manage them, find a way to give them little bit time to just keep them at bay, and so that they can handle when the answer has to be no, right? That's that class of people. A second category of people are just simply scammers. Scammers, I just call them scammers because they can be usually your friends though, usually your friends, because I mean, a stranger won't just show up from nowhere and ask you to lend and you lend. So it presupposes, lending presupposes an existing relationship, right? That makes the person feel entitled to asking you for something or feel worthy of asking you for something, right? Because there are many people in your life that you know you don't have that relationship with, that you should be able to call and say, lend me money. It has to be somebody that there's an existing relationship with, right? So what I'm trying to say in essence is, with these guys, the scammers, there can be the rest of the people that can be, you know? And the point is, they were very clear. They were very clear in what they always wanted to do. It's you who did not know. Because lend me becomes the line for scamming. And because you respect the person and hold the person to high esteem, you just don't believe that will happen. See, when it comes to money, and I've told you, when it comes to money, people just come, and people need to prove themselves. People need to pass the money test before you get them closest to you. People need to pass the money test. It's easy, right? Don't pass the money test, right? You just keep them, because when money is on the table, people become thieves, people become all kinds of things you can imagine, right? So what I'm trying to say is, and these guys have a strategy. You need to be smart enough to watch the pattern. And it has happened to many people. So a friend calls you up from a blues, or just somebody calls you and gets to ask you to lend me 10,000 naira, for instance. And you're like, okay, 10,000 naira is small. I mean, 10,000 is small. Okay, 10,000. And in your head, you said this 10,000, right? You send 10,000 naira to the person. And the person tells you, I'll pay you tomorrow. It's usually sudden. It's usually the payment distance is usually closed. I'll pay you tomorrow evening, I'll pay that. By tomorrow, I'll pay you. So in their scorecard, they just step one, good, right? They give you 1 week. They give you 1 week and call you back. They are expecting that they have kept their word earlier. You know, these scammers, they are good with human psychology, right? Because they paid as and when due, you loved them for it. Then they give you 1 week. I mean, it's just like normal robbery where somebody is planning. Gives you 1 week and he comes back and gets to ask you to lend 20,000. Come on, I lend 20,000. And you're like, okay, 20,000 is not so big. And then this guy borrowed 10,000 the other day and was able to pay as I went due, right? Okay, 20,000 will give him 20,000. You don't know that my guy is building his credit score with you. He tells you, 20,000, I'll pay you back next 3 days. Maybe this Monday, say Wednesday, I'll pay you. Then Wednesday, spot on. You get a transfer 20K. He sends you the receipt and be like, thank you for trusting me. Thank you for this. Trying to build rapport, right? You should know. That's the point. You should know what's going on. And then it's incremental. It's either it's asking you for the same amount or it's asking you somewhere and it's building trust with you, Then one day it comes to ask you for 100K or 200K or something. And that's the one you will not pay back. And you couldn't tell that. Why is it you that is always coming back to? Why is it growing? Each time is a step higher. Each time is a step higher. So you should be able to, if you are not paying attention, you will not be able to read that pattern. And that's the truth. That's the whole human psychology thing. If you're not paying attention, you will not be able to read that pattern, right? So you should watch that. We have 15 minutes to go. Let me wrap up short. You'll not be able to read that pattern. So what I'm trying to say, some people are simply scammers, right? Simply scammers, and you should know what up to. And then the last one, let's go quickly to questions. The irresponsible people, right? We just know some of our friends that are simply irresponsible. And there are other ways to know. Remember what I was saying, building your personal brand, I said, when people know you, like you, and trust you in other things, they just carry it over, right? When a person is certified to be irresponsible, and what I mean by that is even in the way they handle little things, little trust, little responsibility, they will never come early, they just do everything shabbily and stuff. You can be sure that their playfulness will be brought into matters of money, and they won't pay. So you should know that somebody who has not established himself or herself to be responsible will blow up. So care about that and have the heart to have that conversation. And it's very important. If not, you just be throwing your money away. You know, if you know somebody is needing to have the say no, and nothing is going to happen. And those people have said you should are those people who are fully in quotes, it's not true, but in the entitled to the success you become. Get a program independent of your real, so that you can also have moral ground to say no when you have to say no, and they will not get really offended for it. Of course, they will not be happy with that stuff. So if you're able to tie all these things together, I think it will just reduce the pain we go through after we suffer, make the money, and then some irresponsible guys just it up. Yeah. So, I think I'll leave it to the moderator now for either questions or interactions and stuff. Whichever one comes to me, I will attend. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Cornell. Where is that reaction? I'm looking for the clap button, the clap, whatever we call it. Thank you so much, Mr. Cornell. I don't know about other people, but from what we've been discussing in the WhatsApp group and from what I've heard so far, I don't know. Let's allow other people speak. I think it's time for questions. And the way we want to go about it is to give people, at least 3 people, a minute or 2 to share their personal experiences, either from the borrower perspective or from the lender perspective. But before then, I saw a couple of hands up that we want to ask questions. So maybe we ask the questions, Cornell addresses them, then we can now share 1 or 2 or 3 stories before we call it a wrap. But on the personal note, I don't know, I have a lot of things to say, a lot of contributions to make, but unfortunately we're running out of time. So let's just go straight to it now. Chidera, I think your hand is up. You can unmute yourself and ask your question. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
So ask us. Okay, so because one I saw the team of the it was so I was expecting him to throw more loan, mortgage loan, payday loan, and secondly, how do we assess those loans? Because I know as a salary earner, we have a payday loan that you can take half of your salary before the end of the month, or mortgage loan that your house. What are the requirements? And yeah, an SME, because some of us are into businesses, and we maybe some 2,000 or 2 million to add to their businesses. How do we request the loan? Do we need guarantor? Do we need our business to be
I don't know if it's just from me, but Chidera has his
I think
network.
network is poor.
Okay, but Chidera, if you can hear me.
Yeah, but I got the question right.
Yes, yes.
So start. Do we need to build our that we're supposed to have in our account before we seek those loans? And the credit score. You say something about the credit score. Hope I'm not too fast.
No,
Yeah,
not at all. It's just
Can you hear
network.
me?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I get it.
Hello, okay. So I was actually expecting to hear how do we, so which means that we have to take loan to build our credit score for the future. Yeah, then there was something you did about fees. I can remember there was a time I took loan. There's something they call admin fee, processing fee, fees that is attached to a loan. So yeah, although I'm coming in terms of corporate loans, things to consider or things before before I noticed that you emphasize more on peer loan, maybe peer-to-peer from family, from friends, but at least a financial group. I think, I don't know if you can throw more emphasis on SMEs. Yeah, understanding terms and conditions of loan. Because I know there's some, and there's some.
Okay.
Fee
And your network is quite poor.
applies
But
to
we
it.
got the question
Yeah,
already.
the T&C 30 days. So, okay. I can hear you.
Yeah, we got your question already. And sorry, your network is poor. So what your question really gets to do for us is call our attention importance of another class on corporate loan. Pay attention to the flyer itself. You see that the sub theme there is how to really deal with family and friends who really bite us, right? And like you already anticipate, what you have called our attention to is quite a universe of discussion on its own. I would say called our attention, and that goes to Seb now, on the importance of having another class on dealing with corporate loans, bank, how to calculate all these things, all those things, and be the off of another class which can take any number of hours you give it. So let's say for today, which is what the flyer has, is to deal with these care loans you talk about, and then there should be a class to deal with that one. I thought.
Okay, no problem. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yes, thank you so much, Cornell, for your response. I was about telling him the same thing. So this is, should I say, it's a different kind of lending and borrowing. And from the flyer, there is how to never again be beaten by family and friends. So we're trying to narrow it down to personal loans, and we understand that they are corporate loans, and we have many business people here. In fact, our reviewer, our facilitator for today is a seasoned businessman. So whether he will be the one to take the next one will be subject to his willingness and availability. But I assure you that we are going to have another session on corporate and business loans. Thank you so much. Okay, Ebere, you can go on, please. Thank you. You've been here since the very first minute. So thank you.
Yeah, first of all, I want to thank Cornell for the wonderful lecture. I mean, Cornell keep blowing my mind. Enough of his wisdom. About how long known he just has he finished. It's just not. I mean, I'm very tired. I mean, it's been a busy day. I really enjoyed it. Thank you so much, organizers. I really appreciate this because Connor knows too. I've been a victim. So many. So
chief of them.
Mine is not a question. It's just I think Connor covered almost everything because on personal discussion with him, we've discussed many of these issues. Just to add one thing, just a general advice for all of us here. You know, from my personal experience, I have noticed that Sometimes when you borrow money from people who you have money, you know, have they're, they're in a better financial situation than you. And maybe the money is not maybe 10,000, 5,000, 20,000, depending on just within that stage. And when it's time, you know, just commented about, he mentioned something like that that has to do with your integrity. You know, when it's time to pay back, you might little needs. They are not urgent, or you just want to consider yourself first. And from my personal experience, sometimes the reason people don't pay that money is they just tell themselves, JP doesn't really need money now. Yeah, don't worry, it's not a big problem for him. Don't worry, you know. So this is in my personal experience. This is the reason why many people don't pay small money. And the problem there is when you don't pay small money, you block your opportunity to, when you need big money, you won't be able to get it. You know? So the thing here is not, it is not about the amount of money. I was talking to you. I know at the moment there are more than 7 people in the 5,000, 10,000, small change. I mean, I'm not going to ask them, like, don't come and mention, give money that you can afford to lose and blah, blah. But the point, I'm happy that they've collected that money. Bye-bye. They can't come in. So it's about your integrity. It's not about whether the person needs the money or not. Yes, yeah. Even if it's 5,000, they might, okay. I mean, even relatives, people that, and I keep asking myself, why didn't you ask me to give 5,000? Why did you use? I mean, you could have this. You've not asked me for money before. Asked me for 5,000. I could have given it to you if I had it at that point. Why did you come? Because once you say borrow, of course, who do? Once you say borrow, even if it's 1 naira, if I give it to you, I expect you by your integrity to pay it back. It doesn't matter if you, because that's one of them, you know. It's actually an in-law. Actually, he paid me so much. Pay me back this money now. He was like, JP, this was 10,000 naira to you. But he said, he asked me to borrow you the money. He asked me to dash you the money. He asked me to borrow you. So I expect you to pay back. So you notice that in their mind, the problem is not that they don't want to pay. They feel you don't really need the money. Like, when you go, what is this money to this person? You know that kind of mindset. And it's a terrible mindset when you borrow money from people you feel. So it's the point there is that it's not about the money. It's not about whether the person needs the money or not. It is more about your integrity. It is more about also blocking future opportunities for yourself and also making it difficult for the person to help others, especially when the need arises. So if we all put this thing in mind, it will help us. So even if it's 1 naira, if you use the word borrow, pay back. That's the idea. If you know you're not going to pay back, ask the person to dash you. If the person wants to give you, let him give you. And I'm looking at, I know when it comes to big money, maybe 50, 100,000, you likely use the word borrow because you know not many people will dash you 100,000. As the person is very rich. Small money, 5,000, 10,000. These are very, very little, and it is this little money. They are small. They are not big money. I mean, many people can afford to just give money. But people use the word, borrow me this, borrow me 2K, borrow. Use the word borrow, and you don't pay back those money. It's not, and those money are not difficult to pay back. You know that you're not. It's not like you're too poor. You can't pay back 5,000, pay back 10,000. But in your mind, you just feel. Because the truth is, as a person, there will always be need. We always have things you need money. And in your mind, you feel, I need this money more than the person you borrowed this from. You just don't have integrity. You're messing yourself up. And all that. So I just feel I should just add that. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great.
Thank you so much. Connie, I don't know if you want to react to that or we need to take another question or comment. Okay.
That is our boss. So
okay.
I've learned a lot from that.
Yes.
Another question.
Yeah. Thank you so much for your contribution. Thank you. It's quite funny, but of course, it's a reality. You know, if you know you are not going to pay back, just tell me, I beg, borrow, just give me money, dash me. But if you know you will pay back, you borrow, then you pay. So thank you so much for your contribution. Emeka, I think you have your hand up. You have a question or a contribution. Thank you.
Yeah, no, it's more a contribution. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, facilitator, for the lecture so far. So I was just going to say that most of the time, in my case, when it comes to lending, I prefer to copy the banks because to a bank, like the former person was saying, character is quite important. In fact, there are 4 categories of customers that we deal with in terms of lending. There is the customer that is willing to pay and is capable. Those are the best ones. Then we have customer that is willing to pay and is not capable. Those ones who can still manage them. We have the customer that is not willing to pay and is not capable. Those are problems. But
Those ones
are the ones that they are capable. Those ones, they are the worst. They have the money, they are not willing. So those particular ones now, their default is much. So, and thankfully, today we have a credit bureau in Nigeria. And that credit bureau, some of us may not know, if you are owing banks and you are defaulting on your loans, it's actually scoring you. And it's going to be affecting you for any subsequent loans you want to take. So if you know that you are defaulting with banks, know that there is a central record where you are showing ahead. Currently, the reason why banks are not closing as much as they used to do, because lending is being taken seriously. In fact, of all the deposits you get in a bank, you have to remove a certain percent for liquidity ratio, for your cash reserve ratio, before you now have a certain percentage that you give out as loan. So the CBN does all these things to ensure that you are keeping people's money. So some other people that only say will not put the whole bank in focus, and you are being monitored like that. So the bank is very big on your on your willingness, your character, and then your capacity to pay. Even if it's a business, as a business too, they have to see your books. That's the main reason why bank will tell you, I want to see your statements, your 6-month statement. That 6 months is for them to be able to review and see the level of transactions you do. So it's not that your business does 100,000 naira transaction level and you want 100 million loan. It's obvious that you cannot, that loan is already going bad. So it's obvious that you cannot pay. So a lot of times, why it seems like as if sometimes when you want to collect loan from the bank is why is because they have to review and say with certainty that unless it's a force measure, that you will find a way to pay. Unless we have maybe very weird circumstances, like maybe COVID happened, business had to crash and the rest. And then the banks also have to follow up on their loans. If you are collecting a car loan, we can't give you the money. We'll pay the car dealer. So you will not use the money and get marry second wife. So
are you now talking about Celestine? You are referring to Celestine.
I don't. But I'm also saying that we can go back to personally look at our lives in that manner to see if somebody is asking you for an individual loan, if you have an idea of that person's capacity, he has to tell you the kind of money you will give that person. And you have to establish, like you were saying, that when you show somebody that you have savings somewhere, yes, you have to be able to establish that that person has a source of repayment for you. It's not that friend that is not working, that is not doing anything, suddenly wants 20K. And you know he's unemployed, he's not doing any single thing for himself. And then you become surprised that the money that he cannot pay the money. You shouldn't be surprised now. There's no capacity to repay. So, and then another thing I used to console myself is that God that brought me, if I cannot give the person, he will bring another person. They will not die. You get? Yes. Now I've been in instances where I gave and gave and gave and gave until there was nothing. Everybody come rest. You get? And after that time, I did not have any money. Nobody died. Everybody was still living happy.
Happier than you. Happier than you.
So I'm just saying, you have to consider those things before you are parting with money. So you don't go and you don't evaluate. You have to do a bit of an evaluation of whoever you are giving money. like the previous person said, it makes sense. Anybody you give 5,000 and the person did not pay you back, don't go and give 100,000. No, you already know that money is not coming back to avoid a long story. So I'm saying most of the time, if you don't want to give, don't give. That person will most likely not die. That's just the truth. Thank you.
Yeah, especially when that person is not your primary responsibility, right?
Yes.
Yes. Your job.
Yes.
But if that's your primary responsibility,
yes.
You don't give your father money to go for treatment.
When you know you have it, yes.
Yeah.
You are now the irresponsible person.
If the person is your primary responsibility, you will most likely not be alone. Most of the time. Now, you don't need to do that your responsibility. You'll be giving them money now, normally. If I have the, I'll give my people at home, I'll give them money, knowing, yes, I'm giving you money because you are my people. Yes. But then, like the person was saying, when that person has mentioned loan has become a different ball game altogether. If it's loan now, then we don't have to assess you like a lender to say, okay, do you have the character? Do you have the capacity? If I even want to go for, do you have collateral? Can your collateral cover what you are telling me? You get, and at that point will move. If not, if you don't have the money, go to bank and collect loan now. Leave me alone so that will not worry.
Let me just add.
Okay, very good one, please.
Yeah, let me just add. You see, I think we are all learning here. You know, we are trying to be responsible lenders and responsible borrowers. You know, if you look at your circle of friends and relatives, you know that, see, and almost everybody here we are young and we're praying to do well. You know that especially if you work hard, you know you're going to make it. You're going to be better tomorrow. People keep coming to you for money. What I'm using this my little opportunity to do now is, if you ask me for between 1,000 and 5,000, I mean, if at that point I can easily afford it. I mean, these are, remember what I said, within your immediate circle of friends and relatives, people you know that you have a long-term relationship with. Yeah. There are people you can easily discard, but there are people that you know you can't discard them because anyhow, they are relatives and they will always come around. One strategy I use is, if you ask for small money now, once you say borrow, I'll give you and watch you. I'll not even ask you to give me back. I'll give that's like and the thing is, almost all of them fall for that trap.
Yes. Almost all of them.
I'm giving you that 5,000, not because when you said borrow me, when I'm giving you that money, I'm not borrowing you. I'm just setting a trap for you. Because I know that you will not pay back. And but the day you will need the real money, I will not give you. This is the strategy I use, and you really, because almost all of them, you come and collect 5,000, you come and collect small change, 2,000, 3,000, then you will not pay back. The Bible said, if you can't be trusted in little things, is it the bigger ones that you trust? Yes. So these are you set trap, and the credit worthiness the banker mentioned, very key, very important. In the UK, for instance, before you get accommodation, one of the things the housing agency will do is to check your credit rating. If you're owing, if you've ever owed a bank, if you defaulted, you will live outside, you will die under code in this country. So you see, this thing is so important. That credit worthiness is so important that if people think about, imagine, before they'll ask you, the only thing they need is your bank, your name. They'll ask you, they'll just get your food. They'll go to the database, they'll check whether you've owed, even if it's electricity bill. Have you owed electricity bill before? Have you defaulted in water? All these little things. Once you've defaulted, nobody will give you house. So it's if we cultivate, and this is why people are more responsible in this country. I mean, I stay in the UK. That's what I'm talking about. So people are more responsible because the system is built around borrowing and lending, and that's what the world is all about. Times almost everybody here riding big cars and using iPhone and all that. They never paid for it completely. You just deposit small money, and once you default, you won't get another one. So it's just building that culture of being responsible, being accountable, and it just makes life keep moving. But once you start breaking it, it's just gonna be a problem.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you so much. Well, I think one thing I would want to add before it gets to my turn to speak, because I need to talk. I've had awful experiences. Um, is about sometimes there's what I call to service my friendships or relationships. So if I know you as someone that maybe is deserving of my support or my help, and you ask me something, and I know I have it at that point, at the back of my mind, I may not even intend to, I may not even have a plan to say, okay, you must pay me back. I'll just give it to you freely. But on the other hand of it, once you mention loan or I beg, borrow me, I would want to use that as an opportunity to validate your integrity, the kind of person you are, But the point is, there's an amount of money I can easily part away with the ideology or with the notion that I'm servicing my friendship. I can easily part away with that, but I'll come back to my own experience anyway. Thank you. So, Celestine, you can go on. You don't go use money, marry wife. Borrow money from Chukwemeka, go use and marry.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening, Celestine.
So why I will not respond to you is because you are not qualified. You're not qualified to ask me that question. If it's my big brother and Prof, bro Ihemeze and our brother Kone. Not that Kone is qualified though, but I think he has a better standing to ask me such question. Moral focus. Okay, see, I want to appreciate everyone, especially our brother Cornell. Cornell has been a standard bearer, on so many things. I want to give it to him, all the time, Somebody who want to listen to, once it's Cornell, want to listen to Cornell. Just like our brother Chugu said he's a box of wisdom, And I know he doesn't know me. Our brother Ihemeze doesn't know me, but I know him. I remember when he came back, I think after their scholarship stuff, when they came back to St. Peter's to give us talk about how to get scholarship and blah, blah, blah. Well, village people has not allowed us to even make a trial.
Just tell us that.
That's why me and myself have been here. Self cannot travel out because in the village,
just tell us that
officially, what my interest is here is to make a contribution. I want to state something. What I do, my interest about borrowing and lending. What a bad borrower does is to block a path for a prospective borrower.
Yeah, true.
That is what people don't know. That is my interest. That is why so many of us are not happy when people default. It's not about the person. It's about the prospective, a true somebody who's a true intent, Somebody just like women on Twitter who comes out to shout rape, 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 rape. And then when you find out, okay, this John Depp's issue with, what's her name? Is it Amber?
Yeah, Amber Heard.
Okay, Amber Heard. The case actually at the end of the day exposed a lot of things. And now tomorrow, if a lady begins to say, I am being molested, I'm being abused in my home, so many persons would say, I'm not Martin. Not mind these people, they know they're serious. People forget that it's not about you not paying up. It's about the next person who could be very much in need. Need is something that is very, very important. And then the person goes to Cornell or goes to Seb or goes to CSMD and say, bro, please, it choke me for neck. Can you help me? Can you lend me this amount of money? Immediately, the brain is one of the fastest machines I've ever seen. But brain will just do plus or minus and say, oh, okay, took the other one. Mazoka for 2, you are going back. You're doing the same lane again. No, block it off. Just tell the person I don't have. And this is a default response I don't have. Because of bad experience, not because you don't want to loan out money, not because you don't want money. And then secondly, people mistake giving out money for, having it in excess. You think that once you are loading out money, you have ₦1 billion in your account. I have 10,000 naira now that somebody just dashed me. And on the spot, as the money is dropping in my account, could say, please, I beg, you get within I want, you choke me, I beg. But the only thing I have is 10,000. But so no person could mistake it that because I'm lending you out 10,000, it's possible I have a surplus or an excess of 1 million naira somewhere waiting for me. The bottom line and things tonight standards. There is posterity and future. And it's not just about money. I know somebody that has lost a lot of things, even politically, because of the person's bad credit standing with a lot of persons. Mr. A, Mr. B. They don't deal. And this person will not be discussing this issue. They will not be. There have been several occasions when they say, Alpha, this guy approached me for this. I'll say, no, it's a no-go area. The funniest part is that you will not be able to explain yourself. Because Cornell has said, Sep is a bad borrower. Please don't borrow to him. This is the same thing. I may not need an explanation. I need to call you and say, brother, you don't even have that time. I thought of a lot of things from myself and a lot about from people that are close to you. And also, I want to also remind people that it's not just enough to say, I was supposed to pay you last month, but I will pay, I paid now in 3 months' time or 4 months' time. Okay, in business administration, what they tell us about the time value of money. There's no time value of money. See, 1,000 naira today, and you don't pay me, and you're paying me in 5 days' time. The 1,000 naira could amount to 1 naira. You have messed up my money. No, are you seeing this perspective? They agreed that you should buy it tomorrow. Dollar rate is at let's say 600 or 620 naira or 630 naira. You refuse to pay. Start playing your hanky-panky and telling me all stories. Next 2 months, dollar will be around 780, and you're paying me back my money. Have you not seen that you messed up my own credit standing and status? But the person say, the 1,000, you did not pay back. You didn't even pay back. You messed up somebody's money. So many of us have suffered. When we monetization, there was a time Sim left me 100 naira. I was supposed to give back to him that money in like the next 1 month. I back to him this month. Sim like Sim called me and said, "Oh, Omo, did you make a mistake? You're supposed to pay this money in 1 month time." Oh, before I lend my money, before I borrow money from people, if I'm supposed to pay you in 1 month time, I'll tell you I will pay you back in 2 months. That way, I use it to protect and prepare myself ahead in case I don't meet up with my 1 month own targets. But by plus or minus, I will land at that same 1 month that I told you I will pay you back. At the end of the day, my own my relationship with you is maintained, and my own word and worth is maintained instead of destroying it. People should understand that it's not just about the money; it's about what it does to the person. And those the person's businesses and a lot of things that are involved. Okay, there is this lady that called me last week and was telling me, Celeste, please, I'm sorry to tell you this. I said, what? She said, I've done it again. I said, don't what again? Have you lent another person's money? She then told me that since that time, she told me her story that she has lent to more than 4 persons. And she's crying because there is that she has a problem that she cannot say no to people. I said, don't worry, once you die, I'll come and write a wonderful funeral oration for you. I will even read it and say farewell to a wonderful borrower, wonderful lender, a perfect lender that gave out her life because she knows how to, she couldn't resist lending out money. Okay. You understand? At the end of the day, I told her, I shared my own experiences. I said, just like Connor said, for me, at worst, what I do is that, if you ask me 100,000 naira, waiting I go tell you, say I don't get 100,000 naira because if I have known you, and of course, once you have defaulted once in your lifetime, somebody like me becomes difficult for you to come back again. Somebody like me, person, I don't know for any other person. Once you have defaulted for the first time, becomes a difficult thing. Then if you say 100,000 naira, I will tell you, okay, Let me check. I think I have 5,000 naira or 2,000 naira. Please, can you take this money and then subscribe or make call so that you can ask other persons who may be able to help you. Because at the moment I don't have what they're asking me. One, as a friend, I've assisted you. If you say the assistance is not enough, my brother, you should assist yourself before you came to me in the first place. And if it's enough, take it and go to another person so that the person will help you. That is what I do. You know, it's not actually easy. One thing you should know is that why we are being this passionate about this thing, it is not about strangers. So, faulting doesn't happen between you and strangers. Mostly, it's and kins, people that share the same almost everything with you, people that know you. There are certain traps of emotional traps for you, whether you are going to fail them or not. And then you burn bridges because of 10,000 naira. And then after you have borrowed the 10,000 naira, they come up and say, just those 10,000 naira, I want you to kiss her because of you. But they are coming. Okay, there's this client that waited around February. The guy came to me and was quoting all the things he wanted to do. He wants to do wedding card. He wants to do wedding program. He wants to do jotters. He wants to do wedding souvenir bags. He wants to do this one. I said, Oga, you are complaining. Why don't you do the ones you can do that you have the money to do? He said, no, he wants it to be this. That is meeting people are going to contribute money. At every person wears, give the person 100K. This other person will give it. This other person will say, I say, these things are not cast on the rock. Oh. He begged and begged and begged and said, please, it's this 12,000 naira that is remaining. But I begged that he should do the church program. I said, oh God, they must not do church program. Every priest has a church program, even if it's as old as Methuselah. Every priest has one. They can use it for you people. He said no, that he wants it, that he wants. I said, pay. He said he doesn't have the money now, that he has spent almost like family people. He kept on begging and begging and begging and quoted all the quotations in the Bible for me. I told him, Omo, I'm not the person that can move with Bible quotations. So, Omo, I grew up in the Catholic Church. I went to the seminary. I studied these things back and forth. I know they see you. The guy was begging me, say, in the name of Jesus Christ, Mary and Joseph, everything. At the end of the day, I said, okay, I know I'm treading a path that I will regret. I told myself, and I told you, he said, why should I be saying that? He said that money will be picked on the day of wedding. Why I'm telling these stories for us to also learn. People will come to you with all sorts of stories and swear with their father's grave. Only in Papa and Mama won't go. They will swear with both of them. They will tell you if they don't bring this Amadioha, and God in heaven should strike them dead. You know what to speak now, up to today, how many months can you not get about June, 6 months of the year? This guy has not paid that 25,000 naira. The last two conversations we had, he said, he told me that it's not 25,000 naira, it's 23,000. I said, Thunder will fire you. Go back to our chart. The money is 25,000 naira. He now told me, he used to tell me that when they pay salary, I called him and said, how many months now? I know that Buhari is useless, but not to the extent of owing you for how many months. I know Buhari has been paying you people. Which kind of federal government do you work for? He now started telling me all the stories that happened since he wedded, how his family, how his father and his mother died at the same time, 2 months before he wedded, and how his wife had complications, how he lost this one, how he lost the other one. Almost started telling me stories. In fact, I was going to sell his tricycle to raise money. I said, if you want to sell your household, sell it and give me back my money because I worked for you. He kept on up to today. I told him that the problem with what you have done is that you are blocking a path for the next person. I don't want to make this too lengthy. I'm just trying to share the sites. That most times when people say, oh yeah, this person is does not lend to people, I can't touch it, it's about bad experiences. Bad experiences. And Nigeria is the way it is. We are struggling, we are suffering, trying to manage the little we have. And you want to punish me on top of the one that Buhari is punishing us. Thunder will fire you. So I think people should learn so that we all can help one another. That is just it. So this is my little sense. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So let's see, this could be classified as comedy. Because while I'm taking the lessons, I'm also laughing.
Well, we can call it tragic comedy.
Yes.
Tragic, like it's actually tragic comedy.
it's sad and hilarious at the
And
same
you
time.
know, comic relief more or less, or something like that.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Celestine, for your contribution. I don't know if any other person has something to say. For me, I think one another pattern I would want to share with everybody. Alongside those that want to swear with their late moms and dads, their late moms and dads, we always tell you, okay, just last week, someone told me, Sep, that he's dying. That's the word. That he's dying. He has malaria. I should please borrow him 10K. He's going to send it the next day. So in my mind, I say, this guy is very serious, and since his health issues, maybe it's very urgent. Say, Sep, I beg, I go send them the next day. It took me a lot of courage to beg you. I don't do that. I don't usually do this. I don't usually do that. It took me a lot of courage. I beg, I'm dying. I sent him that money. And I think that was last week or last 2 weeks. Today is Saturday. Okay, last week, Friday. Until date, nothing. It's just 1 week anyway, but it has exceeded the 1 day. But this guy was telling me how it took him a lot of courage to ask me for money and telling me he's dying, malaria. And I'm the kind of person that I'm very particular about issues of health. Once you mention health, life, all those kind of stuff. Because I just feel like it could be true. I've had very bad experiences like Celestine, but in my mind, I'll be like, what if I might just be the person's last resort? What if I'm just, yes. So what do I do? If this person should end up being genuine, what would I tell myself that I had the opportunity to help and I didn't? So that's just one. Then another one, I want to make mention of is the 3 classifications for lenders, borrowers, the entitlers, the scammers, and the responsible. And on the entitlers, I think that's the worst for me. And when Kone was giving that presentation, I had to go to my WhatsApp to check one of the entitlers in my life that told me last 2 months that I should please lend her money. And I asked her how much. She said urgent 50K. My mind is 50K urgent in this Buhari's time.
50K urgent.
Yes. So I told her
it wouldn't be far from a lady. Sorry.
It's a lady, of course. Now I say it's 50K urgent in Buhari's time.
Oh man, big woman be that though.
No big. She's not big.
50K.
She's not big. Just
now be say if you know the urgent, G4. Now for your life, now your life she will come for.
Yeah. So the funny thing is, let me say she man a big woman. She's thinking that I have the money, and for me, 50K should be urgent. You could see the entitlement. So I told her, Madam, 50K is not urgent. I don't even have that money, and I don't leave such amount of money in my account on a weekly basis because of certain security issues. She said, but you have the money now. You are working now. Borrow from your friends. I got so upset. Are you telling me what to do with my money, how to spend my money, that I should go and borrow from my friends to give you? So you could see that sense of entitlement. And when I told her I don't have 50K, that I can give you 5K, and when you have, you pay me back. Say, no. Then fast, since you started working, I never chop your money. I never do this one. So you could see it got me so upset. Like I can discuss this thing, but that day I was really, really, really upset, And it goes a long way to tell how many people see you as a cash machine where they can just easily come because they think you're working or they assume that you should have the money. Some will feel like they never chop your money before. Some will start making all forms of assumptions and feel so entitled to your money. So that's another thing that resonates with me. And the final one, so in case there's another person that wants to say something, is one of, I think, the first 2 rules, which is you can do better than lending what you can afford to lose. So Connell was trying to say that if you have the mentality or the notion of saying, I can only give what I can afford to lose, that is not really a good strategy. Because the essence of borrowing is to ensure you get your money. And once you have that mindset, you're somehow hacking your mind to never wanting to get your money back. Even though I agree with him partially, but for me, to be honest, I think it's going to be a combo strategy for me. For some people, I will continue to only give what I can afford to lose. For example, family, that I know that maybe somehow I need to assist because they're family, and I'm somehow responsible. But if they should come and ask me for an amount of money that I know they may not have the capacity, they may have the willingness, but they may not have the capacity to pay back. Or it could be the other way around. They have the capacity, but they are not willing. I just give them the very little that I can afford to lose. And I would not call it lending them money. I would call it dashing them money, like assisting them. But in their mind, they won't scam me. You get so, but while we can take all the strategies, all the tactics in this game called lending and borrowing, it's also important to um, consider some peculiarities in our own lives. That's just the point I want to make. So we've all cited many examples that relate to almost everybody, but there could be some peculiarities. You could come from Chukwemeka's point of view, where he always believes that even if he doesn't give you, there's another person that always gives you. That saves him a lot of stress. You could come from Celestine's point of view, come from mine, come from Ebere, or even come from everything that Cornell has to say. But while you are taking all this, ensure that you have some form of you relate it somehow to the peculiarity of your financial dealings. So that's just it from me. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Seb. Thank you for organizing this show. Then I would say the host for this particular event. God bless you. Okay, I would rightly say that my name is Ebuka Okoro. I would rightly say that more or less have benefited from borrowing and lending. Lending on the aspect that give to people. I've never had much bad experience. I've had people that you give to and they'll never return. And like I think Emeka, the guy in UK, has said that it makes it easier because it's small money they ask for, and at the end they never pay for it. Then I'm so much privileged because they actually make it easier for me. Then secondly, when it comes to borrowing, sincerely, I'm a very, very good guy when it comes to borrowing. I really don't know how it happens towards me, but I could say it's grace, and I could say it's then being financially prudent as well. I do supply business naturally. I supply medical equipment and consumable. And oftentimes, most of these things comes in when I don't have money. But I notice that each of the time this thing comes in, I know how I talk to I don't know how I talk to this importer. They actually give me these businesses. I don't know if you people understand what I'm saying, but I do it in such a way that I talk to them. They actually give me these businesses. As I'm talking to you now, especially our Igbo brothers and sisters in Koidumota that are into importation and other rest of them. I am owing crazy amounts of money. And do you know the one aspect of it is that they don't know I don't even have a shop. They don't even know my address, as a matter of fact. But one thing that I've noticed is that it's based on what our brother have just spoken about. I show up, I maintain my integrity aspect of it. When I tell you that I'm going to pay between A and B day, I'll pay. If I can't even pay, I will even call you to tell you I can't even pay. Do you understand what I'm saying? Secondly, is that I show up. For instance, I do 9 to 5 job, but I come every weekend. Like today, I finished around 3 o'clock. I still went to the Eco to tell them, Alpha, we share bottle of anything, but I am owing. So I think I love what he actually thought, what he actually said, and the way he actually positioned this whole thing. Believe you me, if you maintain financial integrity, you have a long way to go. It will definitely profit you more than actually getting the disadvantage of it. I'm telling you reality. I am a living witness. Not like I just want to show up. No, I know what I'm saying. These things have actually worked out for me. I'm owing. make mention of any importer of medical equipment in this Lagos as I'm talking to you, and they will tell you, Ebuka, he will definitely pay. Even if I can't even pay, I'll definitely tell you, I will pay so day. And it works out for me. So, all this whole thing, I don't know how it works, but then being financially prudent, it still goes a long way. When it comes to giving out, I am not my immediate family anyway is just my basic primary objective. My mom, my brother, my sister. My mom just there. My other brother is even doing better off than I do. So I basically don't even give them. And then basically, I still want to say something. If there's any way you can conceal your identity, I don't know if it is possible. Conceal your identity. If you get a job or maybe you're working, is there any possible way someone can actually conceal his or her job or identity? It will go a long way to minimize the kind of people coming around to you. For instance, I started working officially last year. Yes, last year. I think last 2 years or last year, officially, like doing corporate job. And nobody in my family knew I was working. Meanwhile, I was the only person staying in Lagos. Yes, every other person in the East and my brother who stays in Lokoja and other rest of it. Officially, nobody knew I was working. It was till this February that I told them I've gotten a job. So as it is, extended family, my immediate family, yes, nobody's even disturbing me. I'm the one sending to them. Nobody calls me for urgent or anything. I'm the one sending to my mom, especially because my brother is working, my sister is working as well. So if there's any way anyone can actually conceal his identity, hide it a bit, it will go a long way to minimize the kind of asking or begging for help that comes in. I know it might not really be possible, when it comes to sharing of good news with, getting a new job and other. I know it might not be possible, but if anybody can actually conceal so many of this identity, it will get a long way. So by and large, I could say both borrowing and lending, I've never had a bad experience anyway. But then I wouldn't rule it out that giving out to people could be. I have some few guys I've given out to and they never returned and the rest of them. So all and all, by and large, I appreciate the co-host, I appreciate the host and every one of you. We all rock. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Ibuka. Thank you. That was really insightful, and thank you for sharing your story. At this time, I'd want to hand over to Cornell. I don't know if he has last words for us or wants to address any of the comments or questions. So maybe after that we can wrap up for tonight. So over to you, Cornell.
I mean, all that should be said. From the interaction so far, you can be sure that it was mind blowing, and I can only thank each and every one of us for having generously shared their personal experiences regarding the subject of discussion. And I mean, we're at that point where there's really nothing more to say other than thank you.
Yes. Other than thank you as well from every other person here on the call. Want to thank you especially, Mr. Cornell, for bringing out your time, making yourself available, and everything you've given and you always give to mankind and to us. Really appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And
Thanks,
to everybody that managed to join and stay till this time, thank you as well for joining us, because without you, I'm not sure it would be easy to. It would have just been me and Cornell having this conversation. So thank you. You made it more fun and more interactive as well. So thank you for joining, and good night. We'll do this some other time next month.
Good night, sir.
Thanks, man.
Good night.
Yeah. Good night, everybody. Zini asked the question. Zini, are you still on?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Cornell has left, but well, let me know if I can answer your question. Well, no answer actually, other than it's impossible to conceal your identity. The only thing you can do is they would know that you're working because you live with them, but they may not know the exact salary you're earning. And And I don't think it's smart for people to ask other people how much do they pay you, how much do you earn. I don't like people
Sorry,
asking.
Mr. Seb. It
Okay.
boils down to family. So family will want to know how much you earn. They go ask how much you earn. Anyway, it boils down to family. Sorry, anyway.
Yes. Okay, Anthony, thank you so much. So Zini, for me, I think like Ebuka said, it boils down to family. And I know people ask that question. But for me, only my dad knows how much I earn. And maybe if you're working in my department, nobody else knows how much I earn. And that's not because it's too big or anything, but issues like this. Okay. And that's the only strategy I can recommend, because it is absolutely impossible to hide the fact that you're working. So the best thing is, if you're earning so thing, you don't need to disclose to them. Then even if you disclose and you're working in an environment where you can easily get, okay. Well, that's actually a different thing as well. So even if they don't ask, but they zero you out from their expenses, then they're just trying to say that you earn your money, take responsibility. And it's different from asking you money or asking you to lend them money. It's a different ball game. So I was talking about them saying that you earn money and they always want to beg you for money. But if they are if they are more like, okay, you're working now, so we're taking you out of our budget, where we usually spend 10K on meals, on food. So since you're working, we're going to be spending 8K. So you manage yourself and you sort yourself. If that excuse me, if that's the case, then it's a different thing altogether. And the only thing I would tell you is, if you're working and you're staying with your parents, an average Nigerian African parent will want you to be contributing. And that's what you're expected to do, taking responsibility. So they don't even care how much you earn. So the only thing you can do is to reach an agreement, to have a common understanding with your parents or whomever you're staying with, that I don't even earn that much. Even though I really appreciate the fact that I'm staying here, this is how much I can contribute. But whether you should contribute, yes, I recommend you contribute to the running of the home, of the house. Okay, I don't know if that answers your question. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, sorry, that's so thank you so much, Zini. Thank you, Ibuka, for sharing your experience. I'm really happy you guys joined today.
Good night.
Yeah, good night.